Hey, it's Alosha Lenov, and today I would like to share with you some interesting concept that I have been observing and noticing by watching other people. And what I have seen is that people that are spending a lot of time in front of television, or if you break it down to really what it is, it's tell a vision, somebody else telling you their vision, the time for personal vision gets squashed. It disappears. So personal dreams and personal aspirations and visions to follow your divine path, which, believe me or not, every single person on this planet has. You have a divine path, a divine calling from Creator to you of what you need to be spending your life with, any spare moment that you have, and eventually your vision will bring financial abundance to you. That is the vision of the Creator. I know that. So what I have observed is that when you're watching, when a person watches a lot of television and getting somebody else to tell them their vision, the time for personal vision disappears, and people start forming somewhat a warped perception about the planet and the world that we're living. And because good news don't sell, let's face it, that we all know that. Nobody's preaching on how many babies are being born and how many forests people are planting and all the good things that are happening out there, because in our subconscious, deep behind, is a reptile brain, and that reptile brain reacts to when there is danger, or when, you know, exactly, it reacts to exactly that, when something is extreme and it takes you out of danger. So when we hear on television that this bad thing happened, that bad thing happened, we just get glued more to it, because bad news just really like horrify us. It's so deeply entrenched in our reptile brain that you know, and that's why so many people are glued to TV, because of all the drama that is happening. It's actually feeding the pain body. So if you want to learn more about the pain body, which everybody has, and some are, I'm working through my pain body, and lots of process work, and coming from my dad and his dad, just the stuff that doesn't belong to me, but it is mine until I have worked through it. So people just buy into bad news because it feeds their pain body. They buy into the horror movies, they buy into the thrillers and the action movies where people get shot and killed. They're just buying into all of it because it actually lifts them up. So be aware of a pain body that you might have, and just minimize the time in front of the TV. In fact, I'm going to be taking you to the classroom right now, and I'm going to be showing you something I've learned from 90-day year course that I'm busy doing, an online business course, and it's called the Priority Matrix. So I'd like to just sketch something on the whiteboard there, so just take you quick to the classroom. But remember, if you want to find your own vision, switch off the telly and just ask a question. Go into meditative state or prayer. Sit with your eyes closed. Put some chilled music if you have to, some violin or some stuff from YouTube that's very relaxing. And just get into the deep zone and ask a question. Why was I born? What is my purpose? Why am I here? And keep asking the questions until you start getting little visual or word coming in, or something, or smell. You might even get a smell just popping in, and that will trigger something. And start writing that paragraph. Start writing that most crucial paragraph in your life. Start writing it with those little visuals or words or anything that pops into your head. Don't judge it, just put it down. It's your intuition telling you, it's saying thank you for awakening me, thank you for listening. So just ask, why was I born on this planet? Creator, tell me, why am I here? What do you want from me? Or how can I serve? How can I serve my brothers and sisters and all beings of this planet? How can I serve the earth? Because the earth needs you right now. Really does. Needs every single one of us to get up off our asses and do something, whatever it is your vision. In fact, they've done tests where they had kids and families watching TV together during dinner time, and they've also observed families that had dinner around the dinner table, and they have found out that those kids that watched dinner, had their dinner in front of the telly, were more prone to drugs because they didn't have that family connection, and they started to find that connection of something that was missing. They started filling it with ecstasy and weed and whatever else is out there. So that's just an interesting bit of information that Californian research that was conducted quite recently. Another thing I've picked up, that people that seem to be watching a lot of TV, their gardens are majority lawn. There are plants there that previous owner have put in. There is generally no mulch because they just want everything sterile and perfect. And without no mulch, the irrigation goes 15-fold. There are more sickly plants. So versus the people that limit TV watching to, just 1 or 2 movies a week, if that. They spend more time outdoors. They do more hiking, but particularly the gardens start to look a bit more wild, a bit more wild and a bit more creative. Like there's something happening there. There is life force. There's earthworms in the soil. It's just something I've been picking up, that when I see a satellite dish outside on the roof, and no judgment, but generally speaking, when I see a satellite dish on the roof, I see lawn outside, I see erosion going down the street, I smell fertilizer, I see non-recycling versus people that don't have a lot of TV watching. They recycle their waste, and there is generally a compost pile somewhere or an earthworm bin. It's just some observation that I made. Perhaps you've got some other observations or you want to comment on that. I'd love to hear from you. Yeah, let's share it. So let me take you to the classroom and show you this awesome priority matrix of how you could and should, in fact, should be spending your day. I'm just applying this priority matrix, and it's working like a marvel. It's really, really working well. 1, 2, 3, 4, just 4 steps, and believe it or not, the telly goes into the 4th category. So let's go. All right. So since I'm still learning about this myself, I'll just need to peek into my book, but it's really crucial information. So what we have is we have important and not important tasks, and urgent and not urgent. So important is that what you want to import into your sphere of awareness. So majority of the people would think that important and urgent is the main thing that we should be focusing and starting our day with. That is the priority. Actually, it is not. Okay? What you should be starting your day with and putting your energy into is important and not urgent. So what goes into number 1? What goes into number 1 is goal setting. 2-week sprints, which is what I've started doing now. Every 2 weeks I'll sit with my staff and we'll, write out what we want to achieve in the next 2 weeks. Goal setting, 2-week sprints, the family time would go into number 1. Mapping out new marketing, strategic planning. So all of that would go into number 1. It is not urgent, but it's that long-term thinking that will just keep building the momentum. Relationship building, quite important, we'll go there. Like today I did a process work, which, I needed to do some quantum collapsing on my father because I had a charge there with him. So that actually for me was important, and I didn't feel it was number 2. It was so important that I actually took half a Monday off and I did a collapse on my dad, which dropped a couple of charges that I had, and I had great tears of gratitude. So any process work. So if you were to do, like if you need to attend a hypnotherapy session, that could be quite important, because that hypnotherapy session, for example, could break down a certain block that's preventing you from reaching your financial goals, or so process work would fall in this category. Then we have so generally the rule of thumb with this would be, if it doesn't get scheduled, this stuff, it just never happens. So decide when and where you're going to do it, and just get it done. Okay. So what goes into number 2, which is important? Important means it sticks with your vision. It sticks with the vision that I spoke of earlier and your life dream, or if you're working for somebody else. Look, it gets a bit tricky, but I think I'm more talking about entrepreneurs. But still, if you are going to be structuring your day in this way, then you will get to your financial goals a lot quicker, because you will not be wasting time on thinking that you're doing something important whilst it's actually not. So what goes into number 2 is, it's the rule of thumb is deadlines, crises, super urgent stuff. So if your teacher phones you and tells you your child is sick, that would fall into that category. Urgent emails, such as somebody wants to give you money, or somebody needs a quote, or prospect calls, that will all fall into this category. That's pretty much it. So the rule of thumb with this is just do it. Whatever you haven't planned and did in this section will eventually ends up in urgent and important. So if you foresee this, and then you're going to have less crises and less deadlines of any sort, because you've been foreseeing it and you've been building up and doing your marketing strategy or bits and pieces before the time. So here, once it's here, you just got to do it. It's important, it's deadlines, it's crises, it's emergencies, and it's of course those prospect calls or emails that need a quotation or some form of an answer. So then we have number 3, urgent but not important. It's generally would be somebody else asking you for something to fulfill their vision. So statements such as, can I pick your brain? Or people asking you for a favor. And exactly, the majority of the emails, you see, what I would do forever is I would go through every single email systematically, and it's like now it's 120 emails a day, and there's junk there, and then there's prospects emails, and they're not. My brain, the way I trained myself up until now, was to go through all the emails and get to the right stuff, and I deal with that, and I deal with everything else, and no, that's not how it works, actually. That wasted loads of time, and no, don't do that. So how it works is, you scan your email box, and if it's any prospect calls or people want to give you money or need a quotation, you get that done. Then once everything else done here and everything else is done here, and you've done those couple of emails, if you still got time in the day, then you move to the rest of your email box, where, you know, those favors, or can I ask you for a favor, can I pick your brain, or other emails, people asking for stuff. You know, and the rule of thumb was this section: if you can delegate it down to people who enjoy that type of stuff, or if you can delegate it to your colleagues. Yeah, because this is what you should be focusing on. The majority of all the billionaires and all the successful people, they don't really do any of that. That's what the focus is. Right then, they're number one and number two. Phone calls, text messages, most other emails, a request from someone else for something important to them but not you. Generally from other people, helping them meet their goals and priorities, exactly what I said. So you need to balance it with number one. So as long as number one and number two is done, then fine, you can move on to number three. But don't think that you're doing number three the rest of the emails and you're actually doing important stuff, because you're not. Okay, so we got that clear. It works, and that's how successful people structure their day. The rule of thumb with this section is you need to become firm and assertive, and just no thank you, or can it help you at this moment, can you phone next week, or just write it off right then. You don't need to apologize, because that lowers your self-worth. However, you can just plainly no thanks. Then we have number four, and in number four we have not urgent and not important. So it's not the stuff to do with your vision, nothing to do with your vision. It's not that, it's not important, and it's not burning urgent. So let's look what goes into this section. Social media, and not all social media. You could be researching something important for your next marketing campaign, in which point it would go to number two. But mindlessly surfing through the web and mindlessly scrolling through the never-ending autofilling scroll. Yes, it's autofilling. There is never an end to it. As soon as you get to the bottom of the Facebook page, there'll be more appearing. So it's just total waste of time. Fine, if you enjoy to do it, like I really wanted to watch a little bit of comedy, some Russian comedy on the weekend, and I switched on a little bit, and I you know, sunk an hour, watched a comedy, had a little laugh here and there, and you know, that was a little bit of my Saturday nights. But the rest of the time it doesn't really come into my sphere of awareness, because it is not important for me. So yeah, so mindlessly scrolling surfing the web and scrolling around the social media is not urgent and not important. If a thought comes up and it says, I'm wasting time, you probably are wasting time. It's your intuition and subconscious and superconscious are telling you you are wasting time. Get off it. Try and not do it. Or if you do it, know that it's number four. Make sure you've got this done, and have some time for yourself. Meditation would fall into number one. Yoga, exercise would fall into number one, because if you don't put energy into yoga and meditation, then eventually you have a crisis and you end up in the hospital, so you'll have to deal with that there. You know, so meditation, you know, meditation, yoga, exercise, gym, cycling if you enjoy running, walking with your dogs in the evening. That is important. That is your health. That is your looking after the most magnificent organism. That's your body, you know. So you want to look after that. That is number one. So know what falls into number four, and if you can, dump it later. Dump it or do it later. So why is all of this important? Well, first of all, it keeps your why. Why am I doing this? What is my vision? It keeps that front and center. So that's important to remember. It builds your skills and confidence towards your vision, because as you're doing the number ones and twos, you're starting to quantum leap towards your goals and where you're driving and when your divine plan. And if you don't have one, you know, start asking questions from divine, from your own soul to start asking questions. Why was I born? So it's to get there faster, to be more of service to the planet. Nobody ever got rich by not serving the planet and its beings. So the more people you can serve, the more wealth you will attract. And something I need to mention is that when you plan your week, you slot into your days number ones. Then you'll have less number twos, which are urgent and crises and deadlines. So when you plan your week, you work with number ones, but when you start your day, you obviously look at urgency, such as scanning quick email of if there's anything of a quote request or something extremely urgent. Pick a couple of those, deal with them, and then straight away move on to number one, which is your strategic planning, marketing, and all those things we spoke about. So when planning a week, you focus on number ones to fill in your days with number ones. When starting a day, you hit the one or two urgencies that need to be attended to from number two, and then you go to number one. So in the following video, I'd like to share with you another interesting thing I learned from 90 Day Year, which is called daily themes. So I'll just be touching on that next week, and scroll below, leave a comment, and I'd love to hear from you. Have a nice day. Namaste.